Well, I'm here with Lucinda Green, just outside of Melbourne, where she's been, beautiful property, where she's been teaching for the last couple of days. And she's sporting a lovely tan there, which obviously not from the UK. Is that from Australia, or is that from your African safari?
It's from my African safari originally, which I did just before I came to New Zealand, where it was hot for another week, and now I'm here where it's still hot, so I'm not going to be allowed home, am I?
No. And how was your experience in Africa? You love it over there, don't you?
I love it. I try to go every 2 years and do a horse safari, quite often with my mates from offbeat safaris, and gather a whole load of friends and off we go. And there's no greater cross-country experience actually, because you jump so much. The elephant damage is immense, where they tear down the trees to eat just a little bit and leave the rest, and we jump them.
Wow.
And one glorious day came when there was one with a lovely ground lion, and my gosh, the ground lion was a python. Don't see many snakes over there, but that day we did.
Yeah.
And he didn't do us any harm. He wriggled off into the undergrowth, and that was the end of him.
Yeah. And it's interesting because yesterday, watching the clinic that you were giving, it seemed to me that it's sort of the African safari thing. I would imagine you have to be prepared for anything to happen, things to pop up or jump out of the bush. And it seemed to me that that was very much what you're trying to get the riders to be prepared for, much more reactive and more survival. Can you tell us a little bit about how you sort of coach that way?
Well, I suppose over many, many years, the one thing stands out again and again and again. Riding across country is about reacting quickly and really quickly. Because when things go wrong, they go wrong so fast. And if they didn't go wrong so fast, and if you were given a warning when they were going to go wrong, everybody would be able to ride. So it comes down to being able to react to what's happening under you, and to be able to react to what's happening under you, you've got to be able to feel it first. And a lot of people don't. In a way, I think sometimes they get conditioned into I call it, into a bottle, and the screw cap is screwed up on them, and they can't expand their feel anymore because they're trying so hard to do the right thing. And I think it's very important that they're taught the right thing. I would never say that it isn't, but it's terribly important that they're taught the reactive, instinctive riding as well. There's so many facets and assets in riding. There's no way I can get through more than just a small area in a couple of days, and the one I go for is the one that seems to be least taught, which is just ride by the seat of your pants and react and feel what it is you have to react to, and practice reacting to it.
And before you came here to Melbourne, you were obviously in New Zealand on your way through here, so did you find there was much difference? I mean, obviously you've only been here for a couple of days. Was there much difference between New Zealand riders and what you've seen here at this clinic?
I was quite pleasantly surprised. I had one group yesterday that I thought were all in a bit of a, not all, some of them were in a bit of a box, a bit of a glass bottle with the lid screwed on, and once I'd said that that's what I thought they looked like, they jumped out of their bottle and got on and rode, and they were great. And then I had a very good class after that, actually full of 4 quite young people who are not ever so keen to teach young people. I think they're terrified of me, so I'm never quite sure I can deal with them, but they were really on the job and listening, and went really well. And then we had a couple of classes later in the day who also were very easy and quick to get to ride reactively, and were doing so already to an extent. So no, on the face of the experience of just in Melbourne and the 3 clinics in New Zealand, I wouldn't have said that there was anything to choose between the attitude. I was sort of wary because I teach a lot actually in different countries, and America definitely I have had to battle through quite a lot of them being in boxes and trying to get them out of those boxes and into feeling what's happening and reacting to it. In some places has been a struggle, but it's less and less of a struggle now. And when for instance, when I went to teach in South Africa, they don't get so many people coming to teach them, so they're really hungry and very, very easy to teach, therefore, and extremely reactionary. They definitely ride by the seat of their pants. But you can't classify country by country, because you just get one clinic, which is a very small percentage of the whole country. But it's interesting, just trying to give people the feeling that it isn't that difficult. They don't have to think about what they should be doing, they just must react to what's happened, because if they think what they should be doing, the moment's passed.
Would that be related to the type of horses that people are riding now? Yesterday we were talking a little bit about the warmblood versus the thoroughbred.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed how many warmbloods there were here, and by that I mean warmbloods. There's a lot of horses in Europe that don't look warmblood but have got warmblood breeding, but they've hunkered in a lot of thoroughbreds. and that makes them sharper and faster, but I'm still not entirely certain they have the stamina, the endurance, and whilst there's no phase A, B and C anymore, I would say the cross country they have to go faster now, because there's so many sort of groups of fences whereby you have to slow right down and the course designer is making you spend time, and then you have to go jolly fast, and it's really tiring for a horse to gallop and then close down and jump and turn and jump and turn and gallop and close down. You imagine the Grand National, that takes 10 minutes to get round normally, give or take, and they're going about 4 miles. Well, we take 10 minutes to go 4 miles of a 3-day event, and we're pulling up and going and pulling up and going, and the Grand National horses stay in roughly the same gallop the whole way. So I think we've got to be every bit as fit as a racehorse, and I don't think we are most of the time now. I think now that we've cut away so much of the competition, people don't realise just how fit their horses have to be. And to come back to the warm blood, I'm not entirely certain that it is the way ahead. A wonderful moving thoroughbred or a 15/16 horse is probably more it, but then in my view it's always been that. I've never really entered into this warm blood phase, but having said that, we've got a couple at home now that are half and half, and we'll have to wait and see, but they're very light looking, they're not heavy looking. But the thoroughbred has many drawbacks, mostly temperament and movement, but gosh, they're tough. They never say die, and that's quite an important quality.
And looking at the horses that the top riders are riding overseas, I mean, there's obviously a lot of thoroughbred blood there. Are there some good riders and horses for us to watch out for this year, this coming season?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Mark Todd came back into his second incarnation with a handful of very expensive warm blood horses that he'd bought that had already achieved quite a level, except obviously for his Olympic ride in Hong Kong was a thoroughbred Gandalf. But then he won Babington on a horse that was half warm blood, and he never really got him sound again. He might now, but 2 years on, you know, he came back and went off and came back. So I think the last I heard is that Toddy bought a 3-star thoroughbred from New Zealand, and I thought, click, click, I think he's probably got the message. But you've got to try these things, you know. Nobody ever stands still. We'd still be in caves if we did, and you've got to try, and somewhere along there, the perfect mix of the warm blood and the thoroughbred, I'm sure, is the perfect horse. And the horse that won gold medal in the Olympic Games, Sam, and also won a World Championships and also won a European Championships, has yet to win Babington. He is 15/16 thoroughbred. He's by Sam the Man, who's an English sire, I think might be an Irish sire, ended up going to Germany. And there's an inch of something that isn't thoroughbred in him, but you can't see it. But it is 15/16, and he would be, nowadays, people say who's the perfect event horse. In my mind, it's him, because he's small, he's butty, he's a real temperament. He jumped clean through the window of his horse box when he was 5, and they had to have a new horse box to travel him around, because he just, every time he saw the window, he jumped out of it. So he was a hell of a character. But he would be, I'm never too sure these really big horses are going to stay sound, so if I had an ideal choice, I'd be 16/1, short coupled, with super movement and a lovely put-on neck and a great character, and Sam's got the lot.
And he's got some lovely horses coming up this
year
too.
I saw. It'll be really interesting to see if they last the course and stick around as long, because Sam must be sound. You know, he has come out top level for 5 years now. So it will be interesting. He's certainly got some lovely horses, but he is an ace jockey. So he has made them into winners. And whether they're lasters or not, we'll have to see.
And any young riders that you think stand out particularly? Anywhere in the world, really?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We had a very good boy here, came all the way up from South Australia. Cooper.
Oborn? Cooper
Oborn, well done.
Oborn, yeah.
Oborn. Can't ever get anybody's Christian names, let alone the surname. I thought he was exceptionally good. Would love to see him find his way through the brambles to get out on top. He's got 2 quite nice horses too, which is, you know, often you see lots of talent, but the horses are really lacking. So if he makes them himself and doesn't get too much interference, because he's got a lot of natural talent, I wouldn't like to see that go. It just gets guidance a little bit. I think they could be really quite something for him. We've got a couple of good people at home that have ridden 4-star, which Cooper hasn't yet. He's 2-star still. Harry Mead, Richard Mead's son, Richard Mead being an Olympian before even my time. and another girl called Izzy Taylor, and they've got a real talent across country, and one of them has already cracked the dressage and the show jump, the other one's still working on the dressage. I think very few people come out of their mothers with the talent to do both cross country and dressage. All the great ones that are at the top now started with the cross country prowess and learnt the dressage, except for Pippa Funnell, and she started the other way around. So I don't know about Michael Young, because didn't know what he was like as, well, he's only 29 now, but as a younger man, he looks to me to be one of those exceptional freaks that's been able to do all three disciplines absolutely top level since he was quite young, but I don't know that for sure.
And one last question, because we have to let you head off to the airport. What about your riding? I know that you
I used to enjoy
again.
it. It's fun to do it because it just makes you realise how difficult it is, and I think you therefore teach with a bit more sympathy. I have always struggled with the dressage, and I've got a horse at the moment who's 17, advanced horse, and I gave him up because I found the dressage and the show jumping too difficult. And like a bad penny, he came back 3 years later, so I do still ride him, still without any success in the show jump and the dressage, but just occasionally we get placed in advance, and it's fun, but he's nearly sort of got to retire now, I suppose, at that age. So I do still enjoy it. I'd love to have another young horse and see how far I can get it, but you know, time is of the essence as I belt around the world, and I don't think I'm not as good as these guys. They're so good on the flat and they're so good show jumping, and cross country I could probably roughly get around, but they are very good at the bits that I never really enjoyed.
Well, we're absolutely delighted to have you back in Australia. Lovely to see you, and thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, and we'd better let you go so you can hop on the plane and get to your next clinic.
Well, thank you very much for taking an interest. It's
You're
really good that you do, and I'm very appreciative of what I see. I think there's lots of talent bubbling along there.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Lucinda.
Okay.